Welcome back to Atlanta and Company. I'm Christine Pilara. If you're a foodie, then you know Atlanta has hundreds of restaurants to tantalize your taste buds. Food Lover's Guide to Atlanta takes you on a culinary tour of our great city. Author and blogger Malika Harricharan tells us all about it. Welcome.
Thank you, Christine. It's great to be here.
Well, I'm so excited to actually flip when I just opened it up to where this page was, already some of my favorites. Chops, Colonnade. Evelyn and I were talking about how I had not been to Colonnade yet. Haven, another favorite. So before you tell me how you even chose the restaurants in this book, how did you start blogging?
Well, I started my blog 4 years ago. And I've always loved writing, and I love trying new restaurants. And in my group of friends, I'm the go-to person. I'm the de facto person for making plans and scheduling birthday parties and all of that stuff. And so I did that, and then I also, at the same time, I wanted to get into social media. It was starting to explode, and I wanted to shift gears with my career. So I decided, well, let me start a blog and use Facebook and Twitter to drive traffic to it.
Good for you.
And so that's how that started.
That's fantastic. All right, now tell me about this book. What was the hardest thing about writing the book?
The hardest thing, Christine, was actually just sort of stepping outside my comfort zone as far as my likes and my dislikes and my preferences. I knew I was writing this book for people with all different kinds of tastes. So I had to include restaurants that I wouldn't naturally gravitate towards, but I wanted to be all-encompassing for the Atlanta market.
Well, good for you. And speaking of that, who was it written more for? Tourists, locals, business travelers, all of the above?
Yes, yes, and yes.
Okay, good.
The great thing about the book is it's divided by area. So if you're up in Cobb County or you're in Gwinnett County, there are restaurants there for you. If you want to get out and explore a little bit more, say the Buford Highway area, which might be a little intimidating to some folks, there's a guide for that in there.
Perfect.
And if for tourists and people who are traveling here on business, it's also great because, you know, they tend to be in the downtown area.
Yeah.
But Atlanta has so many fantastic restaurants that are just a short cab ride away from the downtown area. So I wrote that guide with them in mind too.
Perfect. Branch out, and well, and also I think just with locals, we tend to stay in our own hood, in our own little neighborhood.
Right.
So this is great. It'll help me, encourage me and my husband to get out on our date nights and actually explore other parts of town and see the great food that it has to offer.
Right, and there's a little synopsis in there, and it kind of gives people an idea of what to expect when they visit the restaurants, and there are little tips and tricks in there for making the best out of your evening.
I love it. Okay, now I have to put you on the spot. Who are your favorites?
Oh gosh, you know, like I said, Atlanta has just so many wonderful restaurants and talented chefs. But if I had to pick some of my favorites, I would say Pura Vida is one of them. That's a tapas restaurant in the Virginia Highland, Virginia Highland neighborhood. Hector Santiago is doing great things there. Really encourage everybody to go there. The Shed at Glenwood is another fantastic restaurant. Miso Izakaya. It's I think it's a little bit unknown to some folks, but it's like Japanese tapas.
Yum.
So
I need to get out more. I haven't hit any of those. I got to take notes. Is there a trend that pleases you the most right now about where you see restaurants going? Is there something that sticks out in your mind that you think, yes, they're on the money?
You know, one of the things that I'm happy about is I see that restaurants are going back to locally sourced foods. A lot of the chefs are even having their own gardens. I think that it's really important for us to start eating more natural and organic foods. You know, there's been so much light shed on the fact that there are hormones and pesticides in our foods. So I'm really happy about that. And, you know, I remember in 1985 moving to Atlanta, and we stopped by a roadside stand and we bought tomatoes and vegetables from people who'd grown their own foods in their gardens. And that sort of went away, and people would just go to the grocery store and buy everything they needed, whether it was in season or not. And now people are sort of getting back to that, and I just love that that whole cycle has come full circle.
We've had so many restaurants on the show, and we've seen that a farm to table movement, and it's wonderful, and you just feel like you're supporting your local farmers, you're eating fresh, so it's a win-win all the way around.
Right, it is.
Yeah. And now let's talk about the way that you eat. Are you an adventurous eater? Are you that type that, you know, likes so many different, you know, different types of food, or are you a little bit safe?
Oh no, I would not say that I'm safe at all. I am a very adventurous eater. I love trying new foods, different cuisines. I will eat offal, which is like veal sweetbreads, bone
Ooh.
marrow, lamb liver fritters. I've tried all of those things.
Lamb liver fritters.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
And it was good?
It was good. It was good. I enjoyed it. One of the things I will say is besides eating out, I love to travel. And part of what I love to do when I travel is I really enjoy getting to know the culture. And part of that is through the cuisine. I mean, that's one of the best ways to get to know the culture. So I try to eat what the locals eat. And when I went to the Cayman Islands, I had turtle, because turtle soup is the thing to have there. I tried that.
Right.
Tastes like chicken.
Okay, good to know if I'm ever down there.
And then when I went to Peru, the thing to eat there is alpaca, which I even went as far as to try that. I did not care for that, I have to tell you,
what was it
Christine.
like? Was it just
It was just very,
chewy or-
very gamey. And you know, I will say that earlier that same day, I was petting an alpaca, so maybe that, that had something to do with it. I don't know. It was, that was a little bit sad
I'm
for
sure
me.
it was still in your head. You're like,
Right,
okay, I
right.
can't, the vision of this sweet face probably.
yeah.
Well, at least, you know, you tried and you're adventurous and you can always
Right.
mark that off your list. And let's talk too about what we can actually find on your blog. For those of us who have never checked it out, what can we find there and how can we be involved?
Yeah, my blog is atlantarestaurantblog.com, very simple.
Okay.
And what I have on there is, of course, reviews. I do restaurant reviews, but in addition to that, I also put restaurant recipes in case somebody
Yes,
has
we love a
visited
certain thing, yeah.
Yeah, in case they visited a restaurant and maybe they'd like to make that recipe at home. I also like to talk about different events going on in Atlanta as far as food-related events that just will keep people in the know.
Perfect.
And occasionally I'll even do an interview with a chef or maybe a food personality. Most recently, I interviewed Chef Jorge from Park's Edge, which, if you're not familiar, he was recently, or Park's Edge was recently featured on Gordon Ramsay's Kitchen Nightmares.
Oh, right.
So it was interesting to talk to him and get his view on it, and I interviewed him before the show aired, so it's interesting to get the behind-the-scenes peek at how they really felt about it. So if anybody would like to see it, it's on my blog, Atlanta Restaurant Blog.
Atlanta Restaurant Blog. Thank you. And quickly, what advice do you have for people who are aspiring food bloggers or writers? You know, and anything you want to just tell them, words of encouragement?
I would say that if you're going to start a blog or you want to write, just write from your heart, write what you feel, because when you do that, you find your own voice.
Right.
And when you find your own voice, you'll find an audience. And the other thing I would say is, if you are writing, be open to the opportunities that come your way, because they're great stepping stones to get you to the point where you're trying to get in your writing.
Sure. And also
reach your goals.
Yeah, you could end up having a book out, which we all need to have. This is great. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time this morning. And how does she stay so thin, eating all this good food? That's what I want to know. What's the secret?
The secret is, you know, when I'm home, I eat healthy. I have lots of fruits and vegetables. I don't keep junk food in my house.
Good.
I don't keep sweets in my house. I have an organic delivery service, Nature's Garden Delivered.
Okay.
They deliver organic fruits and vegetables to my house, and so I have a mix of those that I have during the day when I'm home, and then if I go out at night, I eat whatever I want.
Right.
And I don't feel guilty about it.
That's perfect. You manage it.
That's the way to do it.
I love that. Great advice. Thank you so much, Malika. Best of luck. I'll have to check out the blog. Food Lover's Guide to Atlanta is currently available in bookstores and online.